Hi guys, and welcome to our Premier League 2024-2025 season review.
I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
So yes, I am back with Callum, Luke, James for our Premier League season review. Yes, the season has finished. It's come and gone like that. It doesn't seem that long ago since we were all doing our season predictions, and yet here we are in May. Another season has come and gone. So as always, we were going to be giving how we think our season has gone for all four of our teams. We'll also be talking about the top five, top six Champions League European places. We'll also be talking about the relegation zone. And then to finish off, we'll talk about stats. So, as always, there'll be video stamps in the description. So if you just want to get to a certain part, with Callum with Newcastle, James with Brighton, or Luke with the Arsenal, that will be in the description. So, as always, we will start with Brighton and Hove Albion. So,
Yeah,
James, take us away. So, Brighton finishing eighth, I believe,
right. Yeah.
on 61 points. Yes, take it away. How do you think the season has gone for the Seagulls? Boom.
It went. Oh, it's been a weird season because to be honest, if you told me beginning of the season we'd have eighth place and we'd have a shot at Europe, I'd take it because like first season under Hertzler, youngest manager ever in the Premier League. He has a lot to prove, and no one really knew what he was about. Only real experience in the Bundesliga too. So I think it's done pretty well. It's one of those seasons where we've looked really good and really bad, and there's no in between. Like we may have finished on 61 points, is really great, but Southampton 1-1 draw at home, Leicester 2-0 up, draw 2-2, Wolves 2-0 up, draw 2-2, Ipswich at home 0-0. Forest away 7-0 defeat. It's like, but then you have beat Chelsea 3-0, beat United both times, beat City, beat Liverpool, beat Tottenham, draw to Arsenal. We've played so well against the kind of big six teams kind of thing, but then it comes to the bottom teams, we just had the bottle. Um, I think in terms of how we played, I think it's the first season we've ever had with three players who've scored 10 plus goals. So Matoma, Welbeck, and João Pedro all scored 10 goals. Welbeck's first ever 10 plus goal season in the Premier League, which is nuts, seeing as Welbeck's been in the league for like 18 plus years. Pedro, most assists. Pedro's an interesting one because he is really great, but just has a really short fuse. Like his red card against Brentford when he just kind of lashed out at the end. Player almost happened in the same fixture at our ground in December. He kind of went to elbow him, missed, and because he missed, it wasn't a red card. Like he has that kind of like he can be so good, and then when it's not going his way, he can just throw a hissy fit, and it's just like, do we want that next year? With the kind of yes, you'll get some good moments, but this also comes along and stuff. So it seems like we can get 60 million for him, which honestly I would take. We've bought for 30, sold for 60. Made major profit. We move on. Toma potentially going to Bayern Munich, which would be a massive miss if we lose him. But ultimately, we've missed Pascal Gross. Like ultimately, the one person we needed this season was Pascal Gross. I think our most chances created was like 35 this season. Pascal Gross last year had 137 by himself. The fact that over 100 more chances last season just from him alone than our most. He was the cog that we needed. And I think if we had him this season, he could have been so influential as he always was, so underrated. But we move on. We've had some great players. I think Hinchelwood has come out as being a cracking player. Van Hecke, player of the season. I thought he's been a fantastic defender. I hope he stays. I think if he stays, he will be our next captain. When Lewis Dunk leaves or retires, I think it'll be Van Hecke will be our next captain. He's like 23, 24 maybe. But he's just got that quality of leadership and stuff. He's got some mistakes in him, but that's still, he's still young. He's still got, lot more to learn. I think he'll get there. It's great to see Milner back today. Came on for the last 5 minutes, been injured for most of the season, so good to see him getting back on. Welbeck, as I said, has been fantastic. Could have been in the cups. I think getting to quarterfinals of the FA Cup is okay, but considering how many of the bigger teams weren't in the rounds later on rounds, like there was a big opportunity for us to get further on. It really bores my piss that Palace won the FA Cup. I hate that. I will not say anything else, but I just really hate that because I've heard nothing but that for the last 2 weeks since they've won it. Just Twitter is horrible. But yeah, so I think ultimately I'm happy with where we've been, happy where we've got to. Got some great new signings coming in. Got Zilas is a striker from Germany. He's Greek. Tom Watson, who scored the winner for Sunderland. He looks like a cracking little player. And then obviously we'll find some random Bolivian midfielder who will be the next greatest thing. So looking forward to that. But yeah, I think lots of improvement for next season. I think we've done really well. I'm happy with my team, up the Albion, and next year we're going to win a cup. I'm saying now, calling it now, we're going to win a cup of some description. Probably the Carabao Cup, but I'll take it. So yeah.
Yeah, to finish off, Brighton have gone from back when we started these videos, James. Brighton were like lower mid-table, and now he's a pushing up into that top 10 the last few seasons.
Yeah.
An eighth's a very strong finish. Like I said, if you can just convert all those draws you guys seem to have, every season prediction video we have, Brighton have loads of draws.
Yeah.
This season, 13 draws. So if you just convert those draws into wins, you could be up there pushing for Europa League or one day Champions League. You never know.
Yeah, we're only 4 points behind Forest, so those games are less than Wolves. That could have been those 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those. It's like slim margins, but it shows they've got something there. If we can keep building on that, put some new players in, keep our big players, anything happens. If we get rid of players again, it's just every year's going to be we're so close, but we'll get there. Or we're so close, but we'll get there. If we don't keep our big players, Believer needs to stay, Matoma needs to stay, Van Hecken needs to stay. We've got to keep these players, otherwise we're not going to be able to build these teams around them.
Anything, Callum, Luke, you guys want to add, or should we move on?
I was going to say basically the same that you did. I think like too many draws. I mean, Brighton have lost less games than Newcastle did. They've lost 3 less games. But they've drawn a considerable amount more. They've doubled the draws. Getting 2 points out of any of those more games, and they're only 5 points behind Newcastle in 5th. So two of those games, and you're up there in the final day of the season, converting them to. And you were saying how you'd bottled leads against teams and it ended up being draws. So again, it's easy to say, oh, it would have been so easy for us to been there. But actually, in Brighton's case, you could argue it would have been. Just hold on a bit better when you've taken the lead in games, and then you'd have been fighting for those Champions League places with the other 5 teams that were up there this afternoon. So, yeah, I mean, again, Hurtsler being an extremely young manager, it was obviously a bit like, coming in, it's going to be a bit weird. But, like I say, it's done a pretty good job. And, again, it would be a shame to lose Matoma and I think who else was there a rumor that was leaving? But obviously, I mean, obviously we always kind of say Brighton always end up in a similar league position. They're always a very consistent, like 7th, 8th kind of team. It's a bit strange, isn't it? But hopefully, competition around those places is big. But if Brighton can get themselves up there, then it would be nice. I did say that I wanted Brighton to win the FA Cup. Unfortunately, they didn't quite get to the final, but still, pretty decent season for Brighton.
Okay, Luke, anything you want to add, or shall we move on?
No, I know the pain that James feels with points lost in winning positions. In fact, we've lost 4 points to Brighton from winning positions this season, so yeah, I know how it feels.
Oh,
none of it was our fault.
Okie dokie then. Right, well, fingers crossed Brighton have another good strong season next season. Obviously, we'll talk about that come season predictions in a few months' time. All right. Moving on then to Newcastle. So, Callum, I'm sure you're quite chuffed right now. By the skin of your teeth, yous have got Champions League football thanks to Man United beating Aston Villa, despite the fact you got beat by Everton at St James's thanks to Man United by a goal difference. Yous have got Champions League football next season with 66 points. So take it away, Callum.
Yeah, I mean, the result today wasn't exactly how I would have wanted the season to have ended. I would have thought that we could have gone to St James's Park for the final game of the season and beaten an Everton side that really didn't have very much to play for. That didn't obviously work out that way, but we were fortunate enough that um, Villa had a player sent off and Man United were able to win the game to keep us in the Champions League position. So we have qualified for the Champions League twice in 3 years. So there has to be something to be said about the consistency that the team shows, being towards the top end, competing for those positions in the table. Last year, obviously, a lot of injury problems, though we didn't really have the squad that we to compete with everybody else. But we were close last season. Yeah, I mean, I predicted us to finish fifth actually at the start of the year, and we did in fact finish fifth. So points for the predictions for me. Won 20 games, which is joint third with quite a lot of other teams. But we lost 12 games. It's like I was saying before, like Brighton lost less games. We lost the same amount of games as Everton. And that's a team who, before David Moyes took over, we were like, oh, they're guaranteed to be relegated with the amount of losses they're likely to get. In the top 10, there's only one team that has more losses than Newcastle, and that's Brentford, and they are in 10th. Again, it's more down to the wins that we've been able to. We have 6 draws, which I think might be actually actually is the least. I know Tottenham have had 5, so have Southampton. But yeah, so I mean, we haven't had that many draws. So a lot of the games where we haven't lost, we've won. So I suppose that's how we've managed to get to where we were. But we did lose the last 2 games against Everton and Arsenal, so it wasn't the greatest. But we did beat Arsenal 3 times this season. Sorry to shoot that one in there, Luke. You did get the final one over us last weekend, so I guess you have that. But I think since December, we've pretty much been, in terms of form, up there with Liverpool and I think Wolves, strangely enough. In points, we've had times in the season where we've gone on 9-game win streak, 6-game win streaks. We've had lots of good consistency across the season, but we've had, again, there's too many losses for me, and against teams that you wouldn't, really be expecting to lose against so much too. But I mean, not really. I mean, Bournemouth did the double over us, and they've had a great season. Things like this, but. Isak obviously has chipped in. He's got the second most goals in the Premier League, 23. Obviously, a bit behind Salah, obviously. But, besides that, you have then Harvey Barnes, who managed 9. Murphy's managed 8. Murphy managed 12 assists as well. So it's 20 goal involvements in the Premier League for Jacob Murphy this season. Considering he's been at the club since, I think, 2017 or something. This is obviously the best Premier League season he's ever had. Bruno's had 6 assists. Isak's had 6 assists, so that's 29 goal involvements for Isak in the Premier League this season. But in terms of, we haven't really had that many high-scoring players besides Isak. Tonali been excellent this season. I think, people are talking about team of the seasons, and I feel like his name is very rarely getting mentioned. And I maybe because I'm watching him week in, week out, but just since he's come back into the team from his ban, he's just like honestly, I think he's the most important midfielder we have. I'd put him above Bruno in terms of how important he is to the team. I think, he's just been everywhere. He's every single time there's been an attack, he's been back to, and I just felt like I've noticed him more. Lewis Hall, Livramento, they've had a really good fullback partnership this season. I mean, Hall's been injured for a bit now, so that's unfortunate. Dan Burn, I mean. I haven't even mentioned the fact that we beat Liverpool to the Carabao Cup. Dan Burn, scoring that header at Wembley against Liverpool and, getting his England call-up and starting the week after that. I mean, at this point in his career for Dan Burn, and he just signed a contract extension as well. He's going to be here for another 2 or 3 seasons. taking him up to, I think, when I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, but a couple of injuries towards the end of the season, a couple of poor performances, second half of games recently. We very much could have been 2 or 3-0 up against Arsenal in the first half last week, and then just completely came out and didn't play in the second, basically. I guess the main thing about it is like the squad depth we have. We'll come back to the fact that everyone's always like, you're the richest club in the world and all this kind of stuff, but our centre-back partnership has been Dan Burn and Fabian Schär, who collectively cost £15 million. Because Botman's been injured all season. We didn't manage to get Mark Gahey in the summer transfer window last year. Pope and Dubravka, 14 million in total as goalkeepers that have, they've both had their share this season. Longstaff and Kraft, and Almiron got sold on, but he was around until January, being around a bit. Murphy, I know that we've got star players like Isak and Bruno and Tonali and things like this, but around them you've got these players that are from an older age when we're finishing 19th in the Premier, near 17th in the Premier League table. So really the work that Eddie Howe's put together, winning the Carabao Cup and qualifying for the Champions League has been a really, really good season. But we can't have a summer like we did last year. We've got to make sure that we actually sign important players. We haven't signed really a proper first team player since Harvey Barnes, and we're talking three summer windows ago. That was, I think it was 2023 or something. That we signed a player that could feasibly start in the team. So lots of we need goalkeepers, centre backs, right wings. We need some depth, and Callum Wilson might be leaving. He hasn't signed a new contract, and he did today hold the badge and was kind of waving and saluting to the fans. And I have heard rumours that his contract isn't going to be extended, but he has played, I think, 16 games this season, mostly off the bench. Hasn't scored a goal. I think he's injuries, and I think he's maybe past it by now. It probably is about time for him to move on, but he has scored 49 goals in a Newcastle shirt. So he's he was around in the darkest times in the changeover of the takeover and things like this. But yeah, it's been a great season. Hopefully, get the signings in, crack on, compete again next season. See how far we can go in the Champions League, in the kind of table format and the playoff format and stuff like this, and hope we can progress a little bit further than we did 2 years ago when we were kicked out of the group stage. But overall, great season. First trophy or first domestic trophy in 70 years, Champions League football. So good time to be the fan of the Toon.
Yeah, I agree. You've got champions. Like I said, despite the fact there's been a few inconsistent performances throughout the season, you've got Champions League football, of course, first major trophy in 70 years, was it?
Yeah, the first domestic trophy for 70 years. I think it's maybe like 57 for a major trophy in general. But yes, in domestic 70 years, yeah.
Yeah, and well played, obviously. We stunk the joint out in that final. My goodness. But anything Luke and James want to add before we carry on?
Yeah, I think with Newcastle, you guys have got a good squad base, and you could be a team that could win the league in 2-3 years. If any team's going to do it, it's probably going to be you. Outside of the so-called Big Six and stuff. So it's just kind of a case of kind of kicking on, keeping Isak if you can, and if not, using the money wisely on a better signing. Because he's in a big miss. 23 goals is important for a team. So yeah.
Luke, anything you want to add?
Not really. I'm sick of the sight of them this season. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, fair enough. All right then. Yeah, I genuinely think, and Callum mentioned this in our football chat, but with a few new signings, I genuinely think Newcastle could potentially be in a title chase next season if they can get rid of those draws and inconsistent results with a few new players. But we'll see. All right then, on to Arsenal. So, Luke, second for the third consecutive season. I don't know how, 74 points. How are you feeling right now? Let us know.
Yes, obviously that's the lowest that it's been out of the last 3 seasons, so it's a bit of a decline this season. There's multiple factors for that. I think the main one, as I alluded to after James spoke about Brighton, we lost a lot of points from winning positions. Well, just from Liverpool earlier in the season when we went 1-0 up and then 2-1 up. That would have been, well, 2 extra points gained on Liverpool, and Liverpool would have 2 less points if we managed to hold on to that. And then obviously it would be 6 points better off if we managed to hold on against Brighton as well. So, but I think we've got about 14 draws or something crazy like that in total, and some of them, most of them are from was dropping points from being in winning positions. I think a big reason for that, excuse me, is because of the lack of firepower that we've had this season. When we've been winning games, it's only been by 1 goal most of the time. And as I said to you guys in the chat earlier, I've got the stat here. This season is the first time since 1923-1924 season that we haven't had a player in double digits for goals, which is insane. I think Havertz finished on 9 goals, and obviously that goes into our next point. Obviously, he missed 3 months after getting surgery. And in total, we've had 8 first-team players that have had major surgeries this season, which is crazy again. We've had Tomiyasu, who you probably all forgot existed because he hasn't featured this season. He's been out all season after getting a second surgery. No one knows what the surgery's on. Yeah, I feel sorry for him. Odegaard, our captain, he obviously missed 3 months with ankle surgery. Ben White missed 3 months with, I think that was his knee. I'm not sure what injury that was, but again, a lot of time, which forced Puajuri Timber, who's recovering from an ACL, to play pretty much every minute this season. Bukayo Saka, our biggest goal threat and creative force, missed 4 months with hamstring injury, which required surgery again. Gabriel Jesus obviously done his ACL in the FA Cup in January, so he's missed the last 6 months. Spoke about Havertz, another hamstring injury, missed 3 months. Gabriel, probably our best defender this season, hamstring again, missed 3 months. And in the last week, Julian Timbers had another surgery on his ankle this time, so he's missed the last 2 game weeks. So I know, obviously, a lot of it has been in our hands. I'm not one of them Arsenal fans that'll make all these excuses and that. Liverpool deserved it. Clearly better team this season over everyone else. Just a shame that we couldn't put up more of a fight to make the league a bit more interesting for neutrals as well as ourselves as fans. We have had some positives this season. Obviously, we were the English team that went the furthest in the Champions League. Managed to beat the champions of Europe, home and away, which I never expected. I don't think anyone else expected. That home game, the 3-0, was probably maybe the highlight of the last 3 seasons that we've had since being, backup players, one of the best teams in England. And as Callum alluded to Tonali, I think we can say the same about Declan Rice. He's up there as one of the best midfielders in the world right now, and hopefully, looks like Subamendi is going to sign, and hopefully with him behind him, he can push on and be an even better player than he already is. I think he's probably up there as our player of the season this season. I think it's probably between him and Raya, who has secured the Golden Glove for the second season in a row, sharing it with Matt Sells from Forest. But them two are probably the only two that have played the majority of the season, because I think before Gabriel got injured, he was probably our front runner for player of the season, chipping in with a load of important goals, and he's been better than Saliba has this season, which says a lot because Saliba is probably one of the top 5, top 6 centre backs in the world. Um, but yeah, going back to that about Northern playing double digits, I'm really hoping that this summer will be when we finally bring in that goal scorer that everyone knows that we've needed for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Obviously, I don't think Isak will be moving now that Newcastle has secured Champions League football. But we have been linked with that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Gyökeres, is it from Sporting? Um, I think he's got 79 goal involvement or something this season, which is just insane. Obviously, it's a Portuguese league, and Adam knows very well that strikers from the Portuguese league don't always hit the ground running in the Premier League. But you never know. He's played in England before with Coventry, and I think he was at Brighton for a little bit as well. And there's also Benjamin Šeško, who I think Liverpool linked with as well, from Leipzig. Both of them are quite similar in terms of build. They're both quite strong and tall and quick. So I think if we can get one of them two in, then hopefully that'll add to our goal scoring tally next season. But all I can say to finish off is just going to have to go again for the 4th season in a row, try and get over the line. Any trophy at this point, we can't complain about. But I think it will be make or break for Arteta. I'm very happy with him. I could go another 2 or 3 seasons with him, with how far that we've came. But as you're all aware, the Arsenal fans turn quick on managers, so the Emirates could get sour if we go another season without a trophy. But fingers crossed we don't, and yeah, hopefully he can bring something on next season.
Yeah, I agree. I think next season is very important for Arsenal. I think you've got to win some form of silverware, even if it's a domestic cup, because I think a lot of Arsenal fans are saying now, back to back, well, 3 seasons, sorry, finishing second. It's great, but the Arsenal fans want to see some trophies soon. So I think next season is crucial for Arsenal. Especially for Arteta, especially. Callum, Luke, anything you guys want to add?
James.
Sorry, Callum, James, anything you want to add? Sorry.
I mean, I'm fairly certain Gyökeres has scored about 30 penalties this season, by the way.
Yeah,
so
that is true. Yeah,
his stats of 79 goals
so
are
is Salah,
slightly
so you
exaggerated
can't
by the penalty kicks. But yeah, I mean, Arsenal have just been missing the striker. I mean, it's unfortunate the injuries. Saka has been, he's obviously vitally important and he wasn't around. Odegaard, I think he's got what six Premier League goals this season or something, maybe.
Yeah, he's not a really bad season.
Yeah, for him, he's not really been up to his normal standard. Like Sterling on loan, like he's not done anything like that. And Arteta, I've seen people be like, how many times can Arteta finish second in the Premier League before, he has to go and allow it to someone else to try because. Arsene Wenger was there for 20 plus years and the fans turned against him so badly. And, Arteta was obviously a player there and things like this. But again, if something doesn't happen where he starts to, get closer to Liverpool or win a trophy next season, then there's probably going to be pressure on him to leave. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's been a shame in a way how, Spurs have technically had a better season than Arsenal and they finished all the way down in 17th place because they've won a trophy. I suppose that's just the kicker in the final nail on the coffin there. But yeah, I mean, it was a close battle. I wonder, if you'd have been able to sign Ollie Watkins in January or you'd brought that striker in, how different the second half of the season could have been. But obviously that wasn't to be, so it's a bit, but yeah, hopefully just crack on and see if you can do it again next year.
James, anything you want to add, or should we move on?
Yeah, I mean, just striker is a big point for a lot of teams, and it's kind of funny seeing Arsenal keep getting second. No offense, but I think this might be Arteta. I think this will be Arteta's last season. I think if you get nothing, if you get something, then you might continue. But there are better managers out there who could probably do a better job than Arteta and win trophies. You can get so much on being a former player for a team, but if you're not winning stuff, all it gets you is a bit of history, and that's kind of it, really. So, but yeah, I think Arsenal are unlucky. I think they will win the league at least at some point, but with Arteta, I'm not too sure. So,
Okay, yeah, I think if Arsenal can just get a striker, and without all the injuries, like you said, Luke, I think there's no reason Arsenal can be up there in a title race next season. I do think the title race next season will be a lot more competitive, for sure. So yeah, we'll see what comes next season. Right then,
here we go.
let me just
Settle ourselves in for this one, boys.
get
2 hours later, you're still going.
Sorry, I was. Oh. Right, lads. Woo! Right. Okay. So oh, sorry, I need to calm myself down. Right. So yes, Liverpool are on to Liverpool. Sorry. So yes, 20 times league champions. Absolutely chuffed, over the moon, as is every Liverpool fan right now. Of course, it's been an absolutely fantastic season for the club, for the city, and it's just been on cloud nine the last few weeks ever since we won the league with still four games to go. I think the funniest thing is, and me included, I don't think anyone, me included, had Liverpool winning the league at the beginning of the season. With Arne Slot coming in, Jurgen Klopp leaving, a lot of fans were like, "Oh, there's going to be a bit of a wobble here. There's going to be a transitional season. Down Liverpool go." And it's not. That's not been the case. He's Arne Slot's come in with a team Jurgen Klopp left him, a very strong title-winning season, title contending team. Because last season Liverpool were up until the last few games of the season in the title race with Arsenal and Man City. And Arne Slot's just come in. He's not really had to do a whole lot. Maybe tweak a few things in midfield, change the style of play a little bit, been a bit slower, a bit more controlled. And we've just been so consistent for the vast majority of the season. We've played such slick, calm football, very different to how we played under Jurgen Klopp. It was just all gung ho, crazy. And a lot of games this season we've been quite poor the first half, and then second half we'll just turn it on and score two or three goals. Um, and yeah, I will also admit, Arsenal and Man City dropping off definitely has been a major part of us winning the league because it's not been very competitive. I mean, us and Arsenal were neck and neck for a little bit. Luke will admit for a few months, and then they started to drop off a little bit. But yeah, I will admit we have been a little bit lucky with Arsenal and Man City dropping off, but Liverpool have just stayed consistent. We've won what I think. Let me just get up the stats. Sorry, 1 second.
25.
Yeah, I had the stats up. I've just completely gone off it now. Yeah, 25 games this season, 9 draws, 4 defeats. We did drop off a little bit after we won the league, but that is to be expected. Obviously, the players were all in party mode. Like we've done it now. We can just go on second gear. So there was a bit of a drop off after we won the league, but and I think what's special about this season is we've got to win the Premier League in front of fans. Because back in 2020, still as special as that was, first title in 30 years with Jurgen Klopp, it was in COVID conditions, an empty Anfield. It wasn't great. So to do it this season in front of 60,000 fans at Anfield, oh, of course, I was in the pub today with all the Reds just going, oh, so special, man. A second Premier League, of course. Jurgen Klopp was there in the stands, looking so proud, like that's my boys. But I've got to give Arne Slot credit, man. He's come in. A lot of people were saying an Eredivisie manager taking over Liverpool. How well is he going to do? But I think he's done great, man. And I've got to mention the players, of course. Mohamed Salah, what a season he's had. 29 goals, 18 assists. That is a Premier League record for goal involvements in a Premier League season. I mean, I thought he was coming towards the end of his prime at the end of last season or the season before that. I was like, he's getting a bit rusty now, Salah, but 29 goals, 18 assists. So yeah, quite a few penalties, but still, what a season he's had. Other goal involvements, Diaz with 13 goals, Gakpo with 10, Jota with 6. Of course, Gakpo and Jota were injured for large segments of the season. Szoboszlai, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Diaz with 7 assists. The midfield this season has been very strong. think Slot's moved, as you guys know, he's moved Gravenberch into midfield. With Klopp kind of left him on the bench, and he's been fantastic this season. So with McAllister and Szoboszlai, it's been a very strong midfield. Van Dijk's still been a brick at that centre back, even though he is in his early 30s now. Van Dijk's still proven he's one of the best centre backs in world football. And we've won the league on 84 points, which, I've heard some rival fans kind of discredit saying 84 points. That's not that impressive. I'm like just because Man City the past few seasons have won it on 90 plus points. But, Man City a few seasons got 89, 86 points. Leicester City in 2016 got 81 points. I think Man United under Ferguson won the league and numerous 80 plus point finishes. So it is incredible. But I wonder what Jurgen Klopp's feeling right now. 2 seasons under Jurgen Klopp, we got 97 points, 92 points. We didn't win the league. Arnie Slot, just because Man City and Arsenal dropped off a little bit this season, won the league with 83 points. It's just football, though, isn't it, lads? It is crazy. You just cannot predict it. And there are, as fantastic as it has been in the Premier League, there has been a few nitpicks, I will say. Like Callum mentioned, the League Cup final defeats to Newcastle. We obviously fair play to Newcastle, first trophy in 70 years, but we put them one of the worst cup final performances I think I've ever seen. The FA Cup exit to Plymouth was disappointing. Going out of the Champions League to PSG at Anfield was disappointing, but I think the fact we've won a 20th league title, a second Premier League title, just I think is the bread and butter. And yeah, I can't wait for the parade tomorrow. I'm going to be out on the streets with, I think like a million people, a million fans are going to be on the streets of Liverpool for that big parade tomorrow. I can't wait. And yeah, I really, really hope Liverpool can keep this up next season. That's one thing I'd hope we can do, because when we won the league under Klopp, there was a big drop off the next season. I think the players just looked knackered. So I hope under Slot, with some reinforcements, we can keep this going next season. We can stay up there and try and defend this title, because Newcastle, Arsenal, City are all going to be stronger next season. There's already a few signings potentially on the way. So it's looking good. But yeah, lads, on cloud nine right now, 20 league titles. I'm just chuffed, and I really, really hope we can stay up there next season. But yeah, lads, anything you guys want to add before we continue into top 8 on relegation?
I mean, Slot isn't messing around, is he? I mean, obviously Trent is gone.
Yeah.
He's obviously off to Madrid. Elephant in the room, let his contract run down, and he's off to Real Madrid. But it already seems like you have signed or will be signing Jeremy Frimpong to replace him. Milos Kerkez looks like he's going in at left back. Florian Wirtz looks like he could potentially be on the move to Liverpool as well. So clearly big strengthening moves for Slot. Not being complacent, but yeah, I think one of the best things he's done, as you say, inherited their team from Klopp. But what he's done with Gravenberch and moving it, and the way that he's performed this season, which you already mentioned. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Slot probably is most people's pick for manager of the season. Really, I'm not sure if he has won it or he is likely to win it. But first season in the Premier League, winning the thing is obviously a very commendable achievement. But then yeah, obviously, as you say, the other competitions not so great. But then what it has meant is, with City having a drop off and things like this, is that Newcastle have been able to win the Carabao Cup and Crystal Palace have been able to win the FA Cup. So for the first time in quite a lot of years, we've had a lot of variety on the trophies that have been won this season. So it's been quite nice to see. But yeah, I mean, obviously, congratulations to Liverpool.
Yeah. Anything, Luke, James, you want to add before we move on?
I think it's been a disappointing season for Liverpool. I might be controversial. With the fact that, yes, you won the league, that is congratulations to you and all that, but disappointing in the FA Cup, disappointing in the Champions League Cup final, Man City and Arsenal dropping off. Mate, congratulations and all. See what happens next year. If you can do it again next year, then I'll hold my hands up and say great season. But
we won the Premier League. What are you on about?
Yeah, but then like the last few games, you've been rubbish.
Yeah, because we won the Premier League.
I'm devil's advocate, man. I'm just saying. I think you could have had a better season than what you've had. There's always can do better. So do better next year. That's all I'll say.
Well, the Premier League, do that
Someone's
next
got to
year.
take you down the peg, Callum. Someone take you down a peg or two, man. Like, come on, you can't be happy all the time. Like you lost 3 cups. Can't have it all.
Okay, fair enough, James. That's your
Do it
opinion.
next year, and I will happily say that you are the best team. I'll happy to that. It's fine, but you know, see what happens next year, man.
You've always got something to say whenever Liverpool win the Premier League. There's always something you find that needs to be like added
Hey,
in there.
someone's got to say it. You know, someone's got. If I said, oh, Brighton won the Premier League, oh yeah, they're rubbish in the cup stuff. Yeah, that's fair enough. We did, but you've got to have both sides of it. Overall, you were fantastic. Don't get me wrong. You were fantastic in the league. Just there is always room for improvement. So, see you next year.
Be careful what you wish for. You say that next season we're going to win more.
That's fine. If you do, then I'll hold my hands up.
No. I'd rather have other teams winning cups, not the same team.
Dear. Okay, fair enough. Luke, anything you want to add before we move on?
Callum pretty much took my point. I think fair play to the club for it looks like going to be wrapping up all these deals before the window's even open. So that's a sign of a good champion, I think, when you're pushing the boat out to, well, just Florian Wirtz, for example, one of the best young talents in the world. And they've just pushed Bayern Munich aside, who are known for taking the rivals' best players, and Liverpool just come along and said, no, come and join us. And I think that's a sign of what's to come, like players instantly preferring to go to Liverpool and some of these other big European giants. Which I suppose in Germany they would much rather that happen than everyone go to Bayern Munich. But yeah, see if there's anyone else after Frimpong, Kerkez and Wirtz. But if there is, I'm sure you'll probably go after a striker of yourself. They'll somehow manage to find a buyer for Nunez. But yeah, we'll see who that player is.
For half the price.
Does happen.
Thanks, Jocker, as always.
Well, one thing's for certain: we can't keep relying on Salah. He is getting older. But he may prove me wrong again next season. But we can't keep relying on Salah. Without Salah this season, Diaz would have been our top goal scorer with 13 goals, which isn't great. But so maybe we'll see what happens next season. But yeah, all right. Thanks, lads. Okay, then. So we'll carry on then. We'll just look over quickly teams that finished European places and Europa League. So obviously, is it 6th and 7th got Europa League this season, or what about 8th?
It's only 6th.
6th FA Cup, yeah, 6th FA Cup.
And Nottingham Forest got Conference League in the end.
Oh, poor Nottingham Forest.
I know. It's a shame, isn't it? Because they were third for a large part of the season, and they just had a big drop off towards the end of the season. I think they won one game in the last 7 or something, and it really pushed them back down.
I mean, Bournemouth were 4th, and they finished 9th, so the same happened to them. So.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bournemouth. Maybe it was injuries for them more than anything.
I'd say as uncompetitive as the league was, I'd say the race for Champions League places was very entertaining this season. Obviously, it was very tight, very close. A lot of teams fighting for those places. So obviously, Liverpool first, Arsenal second, City third, Chelsea 4th, Newcastle 5th, Aston Villa 6th, and Nottingham Forest 7th. Anything you guys want to say on that before we move on to the relegation zone?
Firstly, I predicted Chelsea in the right place. I watched it back because I don't think anyone would have thought, based on last season, how me predicted them to finish 4th. I don't even know where it came from either, but I remember it vividly that I was like, hold on, I'm sure I remember predicting Chelsea in 4th, and Arsenal I predicted to finish 2nd again. Sorry, Lou. And obviously it was more just swapping Liverpool and Man City around, but of course City first of all. I'm fairly certain they won one game in 11 at some point in the league in the middle part of the season, which is crazy for them. They've never had a season like that for a long time, and they've pulled it back up now, obviously. But they were 6th at one point, I think, not only a couple of weeks ago. They've pulled it back up. But Pep Guardiola has said he doesn't like how big of a squad he has, and he might walk away if they don't do the right kind of business selling and whatever this season. So that could be interesting. It's probably about time for them to have somebody else give it a go. And then it's a shame for Forest. I think we would have liked a big club like Forest. They've won European Cups. In the not too recent memory, really. And they've ended up coming seventh. But fair play for to Nuno Espirito Santo, because I think James had them to be relegated in his predictions.
Probably.
So
I think I did too at the
the
beginning of
fact they've come
the.
seventh is quite a miracle.
Mm.
And again, if they just had beaten Chelsea today, then they would have been in the Champions League, and I think they would have, they would have ended up kicking us out. I think, or we would have had better goal difference than Chelsea, so they may have been sixth. I don't know. But yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's just like I actually quite like the fact we got a fifth place in Champions League, because it means that like more teams can have like we could actually get Champions League football. Obviously with Man United and Tottenham being rubbish, it's given up other teams an opportunity. You think of like Fulham, Brentford, Bournemouth, us, Forest, Villa, Newcastle. Teams that let's be honest, all of those teams in the Championship like 10 years ago. So all of them coming up, doing really well. It's a great advert for the Premier League. I think next year, I hope it continues. Chelsea finished in the bottom four. That's fine. Next year, so it's all good. So we're going to see them again in Champions League. And I'm joking. But I think, it shows that teams like us can break the mold and stuff, and long may it continue. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys have summed it up perfectly. I do feel a bit bad Forest couldn't sustain it because, like you guys said, they were in the top four for most of the season, but they just fell off towards the end of the season, which is a shame. But they've still got Conference League.
At the same time, though, you could say it sounds bad, but it's easier to win the conference in the Champions League. So really, it's a good chance to win a European trophy.
Yeah. Luke, anything you want to add before we move on?
I was just going to ask, if Chelsea win the Conference League, what spot does their Europa League spot go to? Or does it just get
I think it's
eliminated?
some people are saying it goes to eighth, and it's really confusing because no one will actually admit what happens. Some are saying if they win the Conference League, it goes to eighth. Some are saying it doesn't matter because they've got Champions League football anyway. I thought the only way to get it was if they came seventh and then won the Conference League, then it went to eighth. But I don't think that's the case. So I think it's just nothing.
Well, we also got a Conference League space for winning the Carabao Cup too, but since we're in a Champions League,
that went to seventh place. That went to
seventh, right? Yeah. Okay.
It's so confusing, honestly. I can't. I'm in the mindset of we're not going to Europe this season. That's fine, and if we do, awesome.
All right then. So let's move on to the relegation zone. So the bottom three, sadly, just like last season, the three that came up have gone straight back down, just like last season. So yes, Southampton with 12 points, minus 60 goal difference.
They are the worst team in the Premier League. Derby, they got the least points. Derby, but Southampton were the worst team. They were rubbish.
Ipswich 22 points, minus 46 goal difference. And Leicester with 25 points, minus 47 goal difference. I think we can all agree that the gulf from the Championship to the Premier League is getting bigger and bigger. And we've seen that now the last two seasons. They've come straight back up. They've come up and they've gone straight back down. Let's hope Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley can change that next season. Fingers crossed. But what do you guys think?
Predictable, wasn't it, really? I mean, I think most of us had all three of them to go down. Not that we expected the gulf between them to be that bad. I mean, Tottenham finished 17th, but they still finished 13 points ahead of Leicester. And, all three teams were confirmed relegated by mid-April, I'm fairly certain it was. So we've known for at least 4 weeks that all three of those teams were going down. But I mean, this has been terrible, haven't they? I mean, there isn't really anything. I mean, Ipswich, for me, of all of them, have been the ones that have at least, kind of like the Luton from last year, who at times were okay. And if they'd have, just some of the results had gone their way, they've had 10 draws, Ipswich. So, again, something going to happen there, I guess. But yeah, it's like you say, the gulf between the Premier League and the Championship is so vast. Leeds, Burnley, and Sunderland coming up next year means that I get the Derby days back, obviously. So that's nice. First time in what 8 or 9 years since Sunderland were last in the Premier League. But also it means that the three of them are most probably likely to go down again, because if Tottenham Hotspur are 17th place with the squad that they have, then and they are the fourth worst team in the Premier League, then how does that actually work in terms of teams coming up? So yeah, we'll just wait and see.
Okay. Anything you just want to add before we finish off with stats?
I think it'd be hilarious if Tottenham went down and won Europa League. I just wish that one of the other teams were just better for once. But I think if any team's going to stay up, it'd be Leeds, which kind of sucks because Leeds are rubbish in my opinion. But I think Sunderland are going to struggle. Burnley will struggle because Burnley have got a great defence, but a good Championship defence. Premier League defence, you have to wait and see. But Leeds actually have a good shout. Probably they might sign Callum Wilson. They're looking to do big things, so it'd be tough. But it's the parish payments will come in handy. I think Leicester will come back up again. Southampton will come back up again. Ipswich probably will in a couple of years' time. But look at Luton, who are now in League One after being in the Premier League last year. So yeah, big gulf. But fingers crossed, something different goes down next year. As sad as it will be, but it just needs a bit more variety, to be honest. So.
Let's not forget, Scott Parker does not do very well with Premier League teams.
No, he doesn't. So he'll get sacked by
as the manager of Burnley. He'll be sacked by October, I imagine. Then they'll bring somebody else in.
Oh dear.
At least Southampton are going down with Will Still as their new manager.
Yeah,
which is coming from he's a bit of a Hurtzler kind of, isn't he, in a way, I suppose, young kind of manager, and he gets a shot at Southampton in the Championship, although Southampton are one of those that'll probably just be up and down for the next God knows how many years until something happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how Burnley actually do. Sounds like you two both have the opposite opinion. I know, like James said, it's a Championship defence, but just comparing this Burnley team to Company's Burnley team 2 seasons ago, they've completely changed the philosophy. And in the Premier League, it's the defence that wins you your games. You see, when Scott Parker come up with Bournemouth, I think he's changed his philosophy because they were quite an attacking team. And now he's completely went the other way around and decided to focus on the defence. I think, how many clean sheets did he get? Was it like 26, 27?
It was a record, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So
they haven't conceded for more than, I think it was like 10 or there was loads in a row of James Trafford with this defence in front of him. I think they was just how many saves and clean sheets in a row they'd had. It's crazy, yeah.
Mm.
So it translates into the Premier League, I suppose.
Okay then. We'll finish off then with stats for the season, like we usually did in the last few season reviews over the years. I think only me and Callum though have access to the stats because
we can guess if you want to.
So I'll just go over top scorers for the top 5 this season. So of course, Mohamed Salah, 29 goals. Woo! Isak, 23. Haaland, 22. Mbuemo, 20. Chris Wood, 20. Good God. Chris Wood got 20 goals. Good God. Ioano Wissa, is that how you say it, guys? Wissa?
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't want another Son Heung-min incident like Callum and Luke know from a few years back. 19 goals. Ollie Watkins got 16. Cunha with 15, and Cole Palmer with 15. Any comments on the goal scorers, guys? Or do you want to just move on to assists?
Nice variety of players. I think Burmo and Wissa were great having there as well. Brentford did well. And Burmo will go to a bigger club. Cunha saved Wolves. He'll go to United and will drop off and we'll never hear from him again. And Callum didn't like that, so he left. So
Callum? Callum? Oh, Callum! Where'd he go?
Burma and Weston, like some different players, like Cunha's going to go to United and disappear forever and never hear from him again. And Palmer dropped off massively. 15 goals is good, but he was missing for 4 or 5 months. So, yeah.
Okay. And just honourable mentions, I guess. Mateta got 14 and Larson from Wolves got 14. Callum, do you want to do like top 5, top 6 player assists?
I don't know why Mateus Cunha wants to go to Man United, by the way. 15th place. Can we
Money.
get some
I think he's decided too early. I think he's
Money.
pretty much agreed before they even played the Europa League final. So, well, looks to be him, I suppose.
Obviously, on Mbomo as well, he's been one of those who's been quite heavily linked to Newcastle to have on that right wing. So, having him and Isak there with 43 combined Premier League goals would definitely be interesting for next season. Anyway, assists. Mohamed Salah sits at the top with 18, as we said earlier. Jacob Murphy actually has the second most assists in the Premier League this season with 12. So that's quite interesting. Anthony Elanga has 11. Bruno Fernandes, Mikel Damsgaard, Anthony Robertson, Morgan Rogers, and Bukayo Saka all have 10 assists for the season. So, yeah, and then Son has 9 and Bowen has 8. So there you go. But I mean, it's kind of weird how, Bruno Fernandes has been able to assist so many goals. He must have assisted every single one of Manchester United's Premier League
They only
goals.
have 12 goals, so he's got them all.
So yeah, clearly, he obviously is the only real player of particular redeemability from this season for Manchester United, you would say. But nice little spread there of some differing players. But Saka being up there after being out for 4 months or whatever it was is he easily could have been the top assister had he not been injured. You could probably deduce from there.
Yeah, it's pretty much just because we were set piece FC for the first half of the season, so mainly from free kicks and corners, I think.
I'll move on to club goals if Luke and James don't have access to the phone. You'll be pleased to know all 4 of our clubs are in the top 5. Woo! So Liverpool with 86, Man City 72, Arsenal 69, Newcastle 68, Brentford and Brighton both with 66, and Chelsea and Spurs with 64. Anything you guys want to talk about club goals?
It's just crazy how many goals Tottenham score considering they finished 17th.
I think they finished on they had +2 goal difference.
Yeah, they have a plus goal difference, yeah.
No, I think they finished with minus because obviously we backed them 4-1.
Oh, did they? Oh, that's right, yeah.
So, yeah.
And Callum, do you want to finish off with club clean sheets before we wrap this up?
Okay, 1 second. I think I'm there.
Oh.
Wins, goals, shoes. Clean sheet. Okay, shoes. What? As if. Okay. So apparently, Liverpool are obviously at the top of these clean sheets with 14. And then Arsenal, Manchester City, Newcastle United, and Nottingham Forest all have 13 clean sheets. Everton are actually the next one with 12.
Pick the bits from.
Brighton are... Sorry, hold on, James. I'm getting there.
Oh, we're low. I know we're low.
Brighton are 13th with 8.
Yeah.
It's weird, though. I didn't think Newcastle would be that high because we have had a lot of goals scored against us. We've had 47 goals against us, I think, and that's quite high in the league. And we have had Pope and Dubravka kind of rotated as keepers when Pope was out with an injury earlier in the season. So that must be their 2 clean sheets combined in the league. But, I mean, I'll take it. It's only 1 below Liverpool, so got to take that.
Yeah, it's the same with Liverpool, isn't it? With Alisson and Kelleher, City with Ortega and Edison. So I think that's why Raya and Sills have the Golden Glove.
Yeah, I think goalie clean sheets, Alisson's a bit lower because I think he was injured for a month or 2.
Yeah.
Kelleher stepped in, but yeah. Right then, are we all finished then, lads? Okay. So, yes, this has been our 2024-2025 Premier League season review. Another, like I said, another season has come and gone. Thank you, lads. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you, James. Thank you, Luke. Thank you, Callum. The four of us will be back in a few months' time with our 2025-2026 Premier League predictions. Probably in a few months' time.
Liverpool won't win anything. There we go. Bottled.
But neither will Brighton. Right,
That's fine.
Here we go. Right. Okay. Well, thank you, lads. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye.